Hi, George back here, aka GeoStomp, doing a quick video on the CyberTruck. I'm actually a bit of a fan of Elon. He's a doer. He gets things done, he goes for it, and he actually gets it right and wins. So that's hard to do in this economy. There's a lot of competitors. So the fact that he's doing well with what he wants to do, I think that's amazing. The whole thing with the battery electric stuff, I think it kind of happened a little bit maybe 10 years ago in the RC hobby industry with the RC airplanes, helicopters, and things like that. They started making the electric helicopters with like 15 horsepower of usable energy immediately. And what could be done with that kind of power within a time frame. It's this much power squeezed into this much time. And what you can do with that is totally different than what the 9 horse or whatever, maybe 5 horse, 5 to 9, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the BHP was on the 90 size motors, but there's only so much you can really cram in amount of time from the little nitro motors. And the hobby loves those motors. No one hates it, but there was a lot of hate for, I don't know if H is kind of, that's a big word, but there was a lot of, they would call it the electric shiz, what's with this electric shiz, what's the new electric shiz, and all that. So that time has kind of passed, though, and some of the people that were the most skeptical are now the biggest buyers, and they probably still call it electric shiz, but the Tesla, it's funny, though, they talk a lot about cost, how much is this going to cost me? Since when do truck buyers turn into big-time Walmart shoppers? I mean, how many trucks do you see outside of Walmart every day where they're trying to get the best deal? They want $888 on everything. Since when is that? I think most truck buyers are thinking more along the lines of how long is this going to cost me in the long run? Because some of them actually own a business. Usually the used trucks are businesses, and the new trucks are guys that are white collar that just want to look like they know how to do things and they're handy. But a lot of times they would only take maybe some art, like a big thing of canvases, and put it in the back of their truck every once in a while, but not very often. So once the truck has 5 years on it, then it goes in the hands of a person that's actually going to use it for what it's for, because now the bed already has scratches and things like that. So I think a Tesla buyer is someone who can possibly see the value of not having to do brakes as often, because the electric cars and trucks, they will slow down with magnetism. And a lot, the brakes on a regular car are hydraulic, and it will cause friction, as we all know, and we've all done them at 16,000 miles. Some people do it yourself, but if you pay somebody, depending on the size of the vehicle, it can be like $1,000 bucks. So no one talks about that with the electrics. Oil changes, maybe you do it every 5,000, 10,000 miles, maybe you do it yourself every 2,000 miles, but that's still going to cost you $40, $50, you do it yourself. I don't know what the rates are for oil right now, but it's probably $27, $30 for a cheap one. But, and then the battery. The battery on a gas car usually goes bad like every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. If you live in the cold, you need a new one like every 2.5, 3 years. So that all adds up, and no one talks about that. But that's the Walmart shopper. Nothing against Walmart, but it's kind of like that super value eccentric shopper that just wants the very best deal and still wants to look good in traffic, and doesn't want the people that are looking at them in traffic to realize that they were just thinking about money when they bought their car. So it's considering the performance of the Tesla trucks, especially with the dual motor system, the 2.5 seconds acceleration, maybe 2.9 or somewhere under 3 seconds, at what point do you start bargaining for that? It's never happened in any other kind of segment. If you're getting 3 seconds of acceleration, the price tag is just like, it's part of the trim. It's like, oh, look at it's like a shirt. You just pay, that's just the price, and that's either you pay it or you don't. You got a Brooks Brothers shirt on, you have something from Walmart, the Walmart one's not going to stand up to the dryer as well. I mean, there's just trade-offs, and with the electric cars, people get real persnickety about the cost and everything like that, and I think it's a little bit different than some of the other segments of cars. But I did notice that the Tesla truck originally it was very boxy to me, but now I think it looks like a Lamborghini that is a truck, basically. The top end is a Lamborghini, and if you are familiar with CAD, if you extruded that down and then took the motor out, and I don't know where it went, I guess to the wheels, and then you can use the bed instead of a motor, you can put tools in it. So that's my take on the design. At first it struck me as like, he's got to be kidding. You know, I understand that a lot of the cars these days are boxy, especially some of the newer Jeeps have been getting boxier and boxier. And then you would see, what is it, the Mercedes? They had that one. It was pretty cool. I forgot what it was called, but that was super boxy. I mean, it looked like it was from out of the 1920s or something. So they do kind of have like a neat stagecoach look to it, but then when you get up to highway speeds, you probably pay a little bit. And I had previous experience with that. I used to put ladders on top of a big van, and the gas that I would use with the ladders on top, with all those rungs going through the air, and they would just hum, you know, with aluminum ladders. I'd put 6 or 8 of them up there, and my gas mileage would be like 2/3 of the, if I took them off, I would get another third. So it's really quite a bit. So, you know, with the Lambo look, I think it's going to be aerodynamic, even though boxy looking. So maybe that's something that's been pioneered before Tesla. Engineers take a look at it. But another thing is, if you're buying, people are like, you know, this stuff, some of it's not American made, some of it's made in another country, and those are good concerns, because if we supported each other, we would all have little garage businesses, and I think that would be an excellent thing. If we could just go garage to garage, kind of like Microsoft. You know, those guys started in the garage. But how many of us are having an opportunity, people knocking our doors for what we make? And a lot of us are making something of some type. So, but the thing is, with these American cars, like, well, you're not buying American, and there's, you know, but when they go to AutoZone, or maybe they do, they buy the, what is that, the Gates belt or something. But a lot of times they go in there for, say, like some rotors. A lot of times people buy the cheapest rotors I can get because they figure it's a hunk of metal, it's been trued up, I'm going to hit it with some pads. I don't need to put $70 in there when I can put $35, $40. And they're imported every time. So, you know, the conversation import versus export, it's all mixed with all the brands. It's just how much, and are you calling it an import or domestic just because someone painted it here or they stamped it here, the metal was from somewhere else. I mean, there's always, it's just a mixture. It's never an absolute. So with all that taken into account, if you're putting a lot of parts on your car and you're going, hey, I'm American made, go get your stack of papers that you got from whatever place you get your auto parts, and let's weigh those parts into your equation. So there's that, and I had a couple other thoughts on it. The way that it looks may also have to do with the way it's produced. I do not know. But it seems to me that, being that this is like a Model T era, Model 3, Model T, it's an era where they need to make a lot of them, or they would like to. I don't know if they need to. That's kind of an argument right now. But I think there's quite a few people that would like to have them produced, and a lot of people that like to buy something that's cheap to make and slightly modular and possibly high quality due to simplicity, because there's a lot of things in this world that are mechanical that if you can really put a lot of thought into it and make it extremely simple, or electronic if you have algorithms and things like that, then they're easy to produce. Everybody gets one, and it's just the path of least resistance on it. So if those doors that are flat and everything helps with not having to polish up a bunch of molds, maybe you need multiple, I don't know. I actually don't know a lot about the production of the stamping and things like that, but it's possible they could just have those folded by an arm, you know, one of those robotic arms. I saw one on TV. It was just taking pieces of metal and going into a press brake with it, and maybe you could make a door that way. I don't know. It could be as simple as 2.5 minutes later and a couple bends. I don't know. But it's possible that all of that would bring really an increase in value that would kind of get this thing kicked off to the people that want it, not to the people that don't want it. Anybody that doesn't want one, don't buy one. I'm not trying to talk anyone into buying anything, but I've kind of been a fan of electric stuff since the helicopters, the EDFs, the high power, you know, New and Castle. I don't know if you know those names, but there's been quite a bit of that going into the RC hobby, and you kind of see maybe if they could scale that up, how much fun that would actually be to just be able to charge it up, and then you get that burst. You get that super capacitor burst, and you funnel it into the motor, and it does it, and it turns. I mean, it's going to turn. If you've ever worked on a CNC, like a lathe or something, you're working with 30 horsepower, you can see the precision that you get, and you start to appreciate it, actually. So there's all of that. You know, some people, they just like it. That's all there is to it. They like it, and then there's a price tag. So if you like it and there's a price, and that meets in the middle, and you like it, then that's something you want. And there was one other thought. You know, Tesla is also an American company thought up by a guy that I guess is kind of an African-American company because he comes from Africa. He moved here for the freedoms and probably to get to know people somehow. Some people are really good at schmoozing, so I got to say, getting something, all that he's done, you really got to be able to know how to talk to people or trick them. I don't know what, but... You know, and a lot of people, when they hear you talk about, well, I like my toys, so I want to have a truck that's like my toy, and they'll discount that. They'll say, you know, that's, what do you want? That's just a little toy, that little thing you play with. That's a toy. You can't drive that to work. But then when they go get their ATVs and all their little two-strokes, you know, they got the jet ski, and they start talking about toys again. And they're like, hey, you know, I got to go pick up my toy, and everybody's happy and go lucky again. So I think it's all the same language, and at some point it's going to click. And it's a little bit odd, though, because the electrics, every time someone buys one, they're going to be using the electricity on the grid. And the grid is a lot of times fueled by fuel. I mean, it's fueled. And so it's a little awkward that way because the only difference, though, is it's being burned and it's at maximum efficiency. A lot of times when you're on the gas in your gasoline car, you're just given just a little bit of nudge beyond what it's already rolling. But when electricity is produced by an electricity company, they are churning out every last little bit and harnessing as much energy as they possibly can. Some of the newer gasoline hybrid cars, they try to do that by running the motor a little while and getting as much efficiency out of it. It's kind of like when you run your generator and it's not really making that much juice. Say you have your refrigerator plugged into a 3,500 watt generator. It's going to be less efficient than if you have it running at 2,000 watts because it's churning and it's within the range. It's kind of like its power band. So when electricity is produced on the grid, they have it in a really good point in the power band, and everything's spinning at the right RPM, and you're getting the maximum amount. So that's actually a more efficient. The batteries included in that equation, it costs more. So a lot of people don't think it's worth it. The thing about it that's a little bit odd, even odder than that, is that every time someone buys an electric car, and they're being more efficient, it makes gas cheaper because we don't need as much. So it's actually friendly to gas cars. If you know someone has a gas car and you buy an electric, you're like, hey, I just made your whole life cheaper. You know, you're welcome. But the gas cars aren't going to be like that. When someone buys a gas car, they're not going to make electric cars cheaper. It's not going to make electric fuel cheaper because we're getting off their fuel. In fact, when you buy a gas car, it makes gas more expensive unless they're just pulling a lot of it out of the ground. So the gas, it has a lot of stigma to it. You almost can't talk about it right now. It's almost the opposite of not being able to say it's just that we're always kind of in a school of thought, all of us. So, but my independent thoughts are we really don't know much about the earth. We can dig holes in it. It's kind of like doing surgery without actually opening the chest. We can't open the chest and look at the heart pumping. We're just putting in like those, what are they, acupuncture things, and then telling everybody we're experts on how the human body works. It's not going to be. I mean, you can measure the pressure. You can see what comes out. But we can't do open heart surgery on the earth and see exactly what's going on. I mean, there could be an oil slick layer and we got the thing turning and it's putting off oil. I mean, they say it's from dead animals. You know, I would assume maybe the ocean has all the dead animals in the bottom, and then they're folding in on themselves the layers of the earth, and slowly over time, and there's little pools. But we don't know. I mean, it's just, if you use gas, I use gas. I have 2-strokes. I love them. I think they're great. In fact, I think they should combine 2-strokes with the electric cars, and so that you can get a lot of range and just put a dirty, cheap 2-stroke, put a Rotax on the back that weighs 35 pounds, do an electric car, and then just that's your backup generator. And that would be an awesome thing, because that would actually be a marriage in heaven, if you ask me. Yes, one's dirty, yes, one's clean, but you're not going to use that Rotax very often. You're not going to put 1,000,000 hours on it. You know, if you put 300 hours on it because you went on vacation 5 times over a few years, that's cool. And if it needs new rings, so what? Put new rings. Take it to somebody, have them bore it out, you know, 1/2 a mil over, and now you have a little more range than you had before, you know. So that's my take on it. It's a bit of a ramble. I wasn't as well, you know, I wasn't prepared as much. I just did a couple of notes on a piece of paper, but I just wanted to put some out there because I've been a fan, and I kind of feel the force of the electrics. I know they're coming to the people that want them, and I can't wait till if the people that want them that can't afford brand new, that there's enough used ones on the market, and that we can get one, because it's nice to have, especially if you don't spill coffee on the seat. To anyone that's buying one, please don't spill coffee on the seat. That's annoying. I have to tell you, I do own a Prius, and I think that is an awesome car. I bought it at 220,000 miles. I put 50,000 miles on it. I haven't done anything to it but 2 oil changes. I have other cars that have done all kinds of stuff to it. You know, put in the steering shafts. You know, you have to oil the CV joint. You know, you might have to put some grease in there because the boot's torn. All kinds of stuff. I mean, I know the ins and outs of the gas cars. Taken care of a lot. Done head gaskets, all of it. But the Prius just keeps going and going. It's extremely good on gas. When you hit the brakes, it never vibrates because it's not using pads. It's using the electric motor to add resistance, and then it could waste it. I mean, you could just have brakes that add resistance and then just put it off into like a, what do they call that, a heat sink, and just blow it off as heat, or blow it into the cab as heat. But as long as they're doing that, they save it and put it into a battery. And if the battery goes bad, there's modules. Now, I don't know if the Tesla is going to do that, but there's modules. If one goes bad, you pull it out. They're like $100 on eBay. You put another one in. You don't need the whole battery pack. So hopefully, I truly hope that Tesla has not made this a planned obsolescence thing. I think he's a little smarter than that for long term. The only time you do that is when you have the market locked, and then it's okay. But if the market's coming unlocked, it's like a phone. You know, you got jailbreak. You should make it to where you can truly fix it, and you can get in there. If there's a bad cell, it got too hot in the summer or whatever, maybe, however, you get in there and you can replace it. Maybe just by chance it was the first one to go bad, and they're all going to go bad in the next couple of years, but you can get in there and fix the one and then get it back up and going, and that would be helpful. I'm sure he has a lot of input and a huge team, and his own vision, I think, is more important than anybody's. So, but that's what I got on the Tesla truck. I know I do all kinds of videos. I do video games. I do stuff from my eBay store. I don't do a whole lot of this stuff for these new products, but I just feel strongly about the Tesla truck. I would like to have one dropped off. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the $40,000 or the $60,000 in the next few years, but you know, if that changes, maybe I'll drop down on one. I'd be probably more like a Tesla 3 guy, or maybe I'll buy one used. Somebody takes care of one for 5 years. I'd be the type of guy to get one after the first 5 years of the fashion show for the first 5 years. So, but anyway, thanks for watching my channel. If you'd like to, just go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm always on doing something, and you can always just check in. If it's a bad video, just turn it off. If it's good, watch my commercials. You know, if it's good, just watch the commercials, and then I'll get like maybe a third of a cent or something. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.